I'm talking about the Anthropic Principle, and the Anthropic Principle is an important principle in science, in modern physics and astronomy and cosmology, and it refers to the fact that the universe has to be the way that it is, as old as it is, as large as it is, have the forces as strong or as weak as they are, each one of them, the gravitational force, the strong nuclear force, the so-called weak force. All of this has to be, let's call it just so, in order for our universe to have created life, in order for us to be there, in order for us to be able to turn back around and look at and understand that same universe. Now, leading scientists have acknowledged the far-reaching implications of the Anthropic Principle. And notice that even though these scientists are not friendly necessarily to God, nevertheless, look how much they concede in what they say about the Anthropic Principle. Here is Fred Hoyle, who was, by the way, a prominent atheist for a good bit of his career. I'm not sure how he ended up, but here we go. Quote, "A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with the laws of physics." What does that tell you? That there is an overpowering intellect that has arranged these dials in this way. Here's physicist Freeman Dyson, who I would describe as spiritual but not religious. By the way, somebody who knew Einstein, someone who taught for much of his career at the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, one of the great physicists of our time. Quote, "The more I examine the universe and study the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe, in some sense, must have known we were coming." Now, look how far Dyson is going here. He's stopping short of invoking some kind of a supernatural deity, to be sure, but he's attributing to the universe a degree of consciousness, a degree of knowledge. What sense does it make to say the universe must have known we were coming? Does the universe itself embody some higher consciousness, that consciousness that has foreknowledge that human beings are going to be, quote, at the end of the line? And here's astronomer Owen Gingerich. Now, Owen Gingerich is, in fact, a Christian, taught at Harvard for many years, now emeritus, I believe. He writes that the Anthropic Principle, quote, "means accepting that the laws of nature are rigged not only in favor of complexity or just in favor of life, but also in favor of mind. To put it dramatically, it implies that mind is written into the laws of nature in a fundamental way." Now, this is a statement that you could write a whole essay on, because the universe itself is matter. It's forces and it's matter. There is, in the universe itself, no obvious indication of mind. It's quarks and electrons. And everything from you and me to trees to stones to stars and faraway galaxies are made of the same stuff. And yet, says Owen Gingerich, this same stuff, material though it is, and driven by what appear to be impersonal forces, laws, nevertheless, these come together in a kind of orchestrated way or planned way to create mind, to create a completely different type of entity. Think of mind. Mind is not a thing. Your mind doesn't have any weight. If you put it on the weighing scale, well, you can't. If somebody asks you, what is the length of your mind? You can't say. Does your mind have any kind of physical mass? No. So, yes, you have a brain, and your brain weighs a certain number of ounces, and the neurons in your brain do as well. And so those are physical objects. But the mind that somehow comes out of that is a non-material thing. And it doesn't have those physical properties. Here's astronomer Robert Jastrow. He writes that the Anthropic Principle, quote, "is the most theistic result to ever come out of science." Now, Jastrow died a few years ago. He was an astronomy professor at Dartmouth. I actually got to know him pretty well in those days. Our association was mainly over politics. Jastrow was, he's Jewish. He was an advocate of Israel. And he was political, and I would say slightly right of center in that regard, mainly because he was a Zionist. But then when he wrote his book, God and the Astronomer, as it was to many people and many scientists and me, it was a surprise because we didn't realize that Jastrow, although again, he maintained his kind of professional agnosticism, I don't know, I'm merely telling you what science is finding out. Nevertheless, he did not hesitate to draw out the implications that science is producing, as he says in this quotation, a quote, theistic result. So when I come back tomorrow, I'm going to pick up the difficulty that the anthropic principle causes for skeptics and for atheists, and how they try to find a clever way around it by positing that we're just very lucky, or there may be multiple universes, all kinds of ways of getting around the simple fact that we live in a universe that appears to have been designed by a designer for us.